all sorts of things occur to me about like the take up of my video material. It's massively educational. I recommend this to anyone. Because look, as long as you develop fluency in talking about your life, you will come with all kinds of examples that stand out to you. You won't necessarily feel like you even have to know what they're examples of. I mean, because maybe it's just so fucked up or so unusual, right? Or just like anything, I mean, we have outstanding intuitions, especially comedians. Comedians aren't really doing that much formal work. They just have incredible intuitions about weird shit that, especially shit that we all go through. We all know, but there are tacit, unspoken domains of discourse, what I would call a domain of discourse. There are tacit, unspoken ones, and there are also domains of discourse that are not necessarily unspoken, but they're restricted for intimacy, or they're restricted for therapy, or maybe the nut house, although I don't think I really qualify for the nut house. I don't know if I really tried. Maybe that's for later in life. I can focus on really losing my mind for real. That's a joke. I'm sorry. What I wish to communicate to y'all right now is the following. Who are my allies and who are my competitors? Okay, as everybody can guess at this point, what I'm doing on my Instagram and one or two YouTube channels, if YouTube decides to turn my other one back on, because I guess I did something that I wasn't supposed to. And it wasn't articulated to me what I did. It was absolutely opaque. So anyway, I use the UR Elementa Hilbert YouTube channel, which I guess is the one that this is on. Although I'll probably put this on Instagram. So, okay, obviously I'm talking about a great many things, and I have fluency in talking about a great many diverse things, historical things, classical things, philosophy and world history and so on. But because of all the psychoanalytic work that I've done, both on the side of theory as well as on the couch, so to speak, I was on the couch for 17 years straight. That's 2010? No. 15 years straight, and 2008, 2009 was patchy. There were some blocks of months I didn't do it. And I think at those times, there's some stops and starts for those 2 years. It's a kind of, the dialectic is something like, do I need this? Do I not need this? Like, is that me? Is that not me? How deep, what am I going to get out of this? How deeply do I have to go, et cetera, et cetera. And then once I got my ass handed to me on a plate one more time, I mean, the other party involved will certainly claim that no such thing happened, and that's fine. If anything, I handed my own ass to myself on a plate. And if that's what happened, I guess I'm still trying to figure out how that works. But So starting in 2010, I really went in for my first serious therapist was Linda Wilkes of Pasadena, and she was not a psychoanalyst. She came from the teaching and the tradition of Guru Joy, who's some kind of New Age guru, and he teaches roughly some kind of metaphysics of the stream. The stream is a kind of current of energy, and you develop various ways of relating to the stream of energy. If you just decide to dive into the stream, basically you're being Icarus. So proceed with care. So Linda Wilkes was an excellent therapist. She's practicing therapist in Pasadena. I highly recommend her. And I know that she works with, well, I shouldn't talk about, I mean, I don't, what do I know who she works with? I don't. Yeah. So from 2010 until 2025, I'm on the couch. And in the second half of that stint, and a lot of the on the couch is like, I'm on the couch on the phone. COVID years, if that counts, it counts. I mean, the work is there. I'm doing the work. I was working my ass off 2-3 times a week. That's for a number of years. I mean, that's 2-3 times a week, solid, 5 years solid. And that ended rather abruptly, but fairly cleanly, if jarringly, just last year. So that's 15 years block of psychoanalysis that I've been through. So I have this capacity and this fluency with language. I have philosophy degrees. I'm really into like nerdy philosophers of language and stuff. I'm really into like grammar and the way that grammatical structure relates to our big metaphysical statements about free will and God and things like that. How does the grammar structure our deepest, most profound propositions that we base our lives on? I'm very interested in that grammatical structure and the symbolism that we use. How do we spell those words? What concepts do those words stand for or refer to? And all of those questions. And so all of those questions are very intimate questions. They're intimate to the human experience, and they're intimate to just basic human phenomenology, universal phenomenology that's common to all humans. And so Frege, very conveniently, as you've heard me talk about, Frege very conveniently just says, okay, well, all intuitions, straightforward lay person's concept of intuition, you just have a gut feeling about something, that's an intuition. So he says, look, all intuitions, they're psychologistic and they're subjectivistic. And he says, if we're going to be doing first principles inquiry, science, then we should not be misled by the subjective. The subjective phenomena will be articulated by an objective linguistic apparatus called Begriffsschrift. It's a formal language. It's a formal language that anybody can learn if they put in the effort. It's a symbolic language. It has no analogous spoken, well, it does have analogous spoken natural language representation, but it's horribly unnatural sounding, and one can only speak the language if one is massively fluent in the symbolism, which Begriffsschrift is an obscure attempt to play the role of Begriffsschrift. The canonical one that's used today, of course, is piano arithmetic. That's P-E-A-N-O Giuseppe Piano arithmetic. Giuseppe Piano was Italian, and he was a mathematician, and he's largely credited for the notation that we understand, for mathematical logic. Upside down A, and then brackets X and whatever variables. Upside down A universal quantifier, and then the backwards E, the leftward pointing prongs of the E, capital E, so to speak. That's the existential quantifier. So backwards E, small x, there exists an x such that, or in the universal quantifier, all x for all x. I draw your attention to the compilation, double disc of serious tech house and dance music, international caliber grade, world-class names, world-class dance music on Halo Cyan. This is my product plug. Call me. I'll send you records. Universal quantifier, upside down A. So I'm into all of these, it's like taking a microscope and zooming into the atomic structure of ordinary everyday speech, and it's at the logical and the semantic and syntactic levels. And those are kind of even pre-grammatical consideration, pre-grammatical, like pre-Chomskyan categories. So all of this, that then I'm willing to talk about that, let's say my mother interrupting me masturbating when I was in 1987, on December 30th of 1987, on the morning before the Holiday Bowl in San Diego, California. I was in Irvine, and I was about to take a shower, and I was naked, and I was masturbating. So, and then my mom interrupted me, and it was horribly upsetting for me, and I had to really keep all that bottled up for a number of years until I could symbolize it properly. And now I've symbolized it to my mother, and so that's like a huge weight off my shoulders. And let me tell you, if there's anything that, it doesn't matter, it could be the stupidest thing. Like, let's say you were 5 years old and you knocked a glass over on the ground and the glass broke. We've all done that hundreds of times as children, right? Well, let's say you did it, and there was one time that was like particularly catastrophic for you, and you were really made to feel the pain, and whatever lesson was supposed to be being taught at that time was far superseded by just basically the physical injury that was done to you in your mind and your body, right? Now, I can perfectly well imagine somebody just always remembering that and always having all kinds of really hardcore feelings about it. But who do you tell? I mean, do you just keep shoving it in the face of your parents? And you know what you did to me when I was 5? I broke that glass. Do you remember what you did to me? Everybody gets angry at you for being petty. And, I'm lucky enough that I have an understanding mother, that she understood the significance that, I was only able to tell her last year. It took me 39 years of hard ass work on myself. Like fucking industrial strength mysticism, full on, no limits. I'm a well-educated philosopher now. And it may have a certain amount to do literally with that event, that it was so catastrophic for my psyche to be exposed like that in one flash to my mother furiously, violently masturbating 5 seconds before ejaculation. And that's a kind of exposure, that it does things to your brain. And what it did to me is, not more than 4 months later, my face was buried in Zen manuals, literally. Eugen Herrigel and Zen Master Dogen and fucking Bodhidharma, for real. Zen and the Art of Archery, Sadaharu O, I was a baseball player. And I just did batting practice all day, every day. I mean, anytime I wasn't in school, I was in the batting cage. I had the pitching machine. I had a wiffle ball pitching machine. Bless my parents. They bought for me, and I used that thing for hours and hours every day. And looking back, I've already said this. Looking back on the whole trajectory, that's the kind of mystical explosion that really is described as like the Bodhi tree moment. It's just that mine is kind of, it's like post George Bataille Bodhi tree moment. It's like the really gnarly, grimy, psychoanalytic Bodhi tree, but it's real. My consciousness was fucking blasted, and I had to do 40 years now, I guess. 40 years, I guess I'm saying now, because it's 2026. 40 years of serious fucking internal work to withstand the pressure, and then all of the alienation that the aftermath and having that kind of double consciousness creates in life, because it creates unbelievably deep double consciousness, because you have to maintain the basis of this secrecy. And the basis of this secrecy involves a tremendous amount of philosophy in order to keep that secret. And so now all the real hard work is over. Now I guess I'm just waiting for somebody to put me in front of a chalkboard and start teaching. But until then, I'll just talk about my sex life as though Frege or Carnap or Kurt Gödel or Morris Schlick or any of them, or Wittgenstein would talk about it if I gave them the permission to. I'm sure they would. They might hesitate a little bit, but they're so like hard, cold scientists. I think that they would love the data, Timestamp, December 30th, 1987, right? Approximately 9 a.m. in the morning. I'm masturbating furiously. I can describe the position of my body. I was completely naked. I can describe the layout of the bathroom, right? I'm sure that all these sentences, Carnap or Frege, would just be like, okay, that's okay. We can use these as cases. Yeah, have at it. So then if the conventions had been thus and so in 1910, 1920, I don't know the years exactly, but, you might have very well heard, look, Freud was already doing it, of course, as a psychologist, as a kind of, failed lab doctor, failed lab scientist or whatever he was, I don't know. But he was already doing it. Freud was really bold, and I cannot imagine what kind of resistance Freud faced. And I think that what I'm doing is probably roughly on a par. Something tells me I'm not actually being that bold, because look, I know what pornography y'all watch. And I know how profoundly important pornography is to y'all's life. It's important to me in a way that's on a par. Everybody's into it differently. I'm into just crazy stills of women's body, like really super flexible women. There are some really gnarly, anatomical photos of women just that are unbelievably sexy. I'm talking about sex right now. Unbelievably flexible, super wet, super throbbing, right? Hardcore ladies, pornography. Good stuff. I mean, to an ordinary, plain vanilla heterosexual guy like me, I mean, I could just explore the woman's body. I mean, whoever lets me, I can just explore a woman's body like forever. Up close with a microscope. Every centimeter. I'm just fascinated, I'm not a woman. I'm just fascinated that there's another gender. I'm super into it. So obviously, if somebody gives me the green light, I can talk about, I can probably talk about my very recent sexual experiences, because it's pretty much of a kind of the super discreet deal that I have with the women that I'm sexually involved with. So I don't really even know if the women that I'm screwing, I don't really even know if I know their real names. So that's fine. I mean, it's just sex. It's literally just sex between like relatively kind adults, The civility part is really lost, I think, a lot of times in discussions about sex work. I mean, most sex work transactions are transacted between adults that have a lot of experience and know what they're doing. They know why they're there. They know how to carry themselves, et cetera, et cetera. I think that's 99% of the reality, and that is a backbone of our upright, mores and stuff. I mean, I don't know about you guys, and I'm sorry to have to say it, but ladies, like wives, and lady partners and stuff. I don't mean to, I don't want to do any kind of mansplain, and I feel very nervous about, speaking to you ladies as a category, but I'm just going to say something that everybody knows. I'm just going to emphasize it. Like, men are fucking sexual animals, okay? Your average heterosexual man is a fucking sexual beast. And if you're in a monogamous relationship with a man who you suspect might be such a man, and you know for a fact that he's sexually not satisfied in the relationship, then the only way that the relationship is continuing is he's fucking somebody and you don't know. Men are absolutely simple. You keep us sucked and fucked, there's a little bit more, but there's not that much more, because like, if, as our dear hero Rita Lucia says, my pussy rocket, your pussy don't. So if you're, dear ladies, if you are in a monogamous relationship with a man you love, and you can be confident that you could, let's say, you could be riding his dick hard, right? And look at him in the eye and go, my pussy rocket, your pussy don't. If he just doesn't become like utterly devoted to you for the rest of time, then he's not a keeper. because the correct answer for any sane, even halfway sane, normal, ordinary, hetero dude is like, can you imagine that? You're fucking this girl and she looks at you right in the eye and she goes, my pussy rocket, your pussy don't, right? You'd think, I will go to the end of the earth for this woman. That's pretty much all you think. It doesn't matter if it's your friend's wife, I hope it's not, or whether it's your wife, or whether it's a girl that you're trying to impress and you want to fuck good or whatever. I mean, so, women, like, yeah, we're in it for the sex. It's a big part of it, and if the sex ain't there, I mean, we're, especially good Christian men, we're prepared to really martyr ourselves. And I've heard of some, serious self-sacrifice and just absolute sacrifice, a total sex life sacrifice. And I know a few myself. We have enough evidence to believe that, somebody's married for a number of decades, they don't sleep together ever, right? I mean, how is it ever gonna, and they hate each other, say, okay, well, there's all kinds of varieties of malfunctioning sexual relationships, I can't really say really about polyamory yet. I'm only really not very far down that path. I don't know how it's going to work. I'm nervous because I've got the sex part secured. It's bringing in the higher levels of development, bringing in emotions and bringing in the intellect in a way that everybody still trusts, that neither one is like trying to close, ground and come after something. It's a very slow process. But, and I think that men's understanding of heterosexual women that we're attracted to and attempting to impress that understanding is probably at an all-time low. The last time that I had sex with let's say the category is native English speaking, like, person born in this country, the last time I had sex with a woman that fit that category was like 2018 or 2017, I think. 2016, 2015. It keeps going back. It ended right before it ended right before the election, right during the election of Hillary and Trump. So what was that, 2015? And he was inaugurated? No, he was inaugurated at the beginning of 2017. So that's like the end of 2016, I guess. Like, yeah, October and November of 2016. I was briefly involved for about 3 months with a born in the United States, Caucasian, academic lady. And the sex was marvelous. And then I didn't even think that I had erupted in temper. I mean, I was visiting her. She lives outside New York, and so I'd left without saying goodbye because we'd had a kind of, we'd had some kind of an argument. And she really started getting aggressive, what I started feeling threatened, and I said something that was pretty awful. I texted, I said, hey, look, if you continue like this,
you're just, I mean, all hellfire is just going to rain down on you. You're not going to know what hit you. And she just basically wrote back, fuck you, never contact me again. This is a longtime professional colleague, mind you. And that's the sort of thing that makes me religious, trying to repair that kind of friendship, because the friendship was much more valuable than, I think it's a quite standard classic, cautionary tale, right? Don't fuck your people, right? That where all your weird infantile shit is going to get in the way. Don't fuck your platonic friends. That's like highly cultivated spiritual shit. So, yeah. I mean, and it's not for lack of trying. I mean, probably if you want to nitpick the efforts that I make at conventional dating, you can probably nitpick all you want. If you want to ask me and interview me, well, Dimitri, what do you do? What do you say, right? How do you act? Like what? Some people seem to think that you're an idiot if you approach with a pickup line. Some people think that you're an idiot if you do not approach with a pickup line. And so welcome to the Kantian antinomy. That's my position on the matter. Pickup line, not pickup line, welcome to philosophy, okay? So, the whole point is that for all the head scratching and perplexity, it does not yield sex, whatever my efforts are. I mean, if I get in a woman's face like this and she sees all of this fucking silver, right? And my frames are, I won't even tell you how much they cost, right? And, like my boots are like three feet long, right? And I don't know, like I'm obviously kind of open for business, right? And so then the theory, what does the theory become? Well, are my Oedipal instincts that deformed or just that non-existent that I literally would have to go to school to flirtation school? I mean, if anybody were willing to teach a philosophy of flirting class, I'd fucking be there in a heartbeat. And I would just keep taking the same class. And if that professor or more people started teaching stuff like that, I would take every class. And I'd fucking I would get a fucking PhD. I'd get a PhD in the philosophy of flirting. That's what I would do, just so I could experiment on myself and really narrow down, like, what the fuck? Is it really that difficult for a fucking wealthy retired unaffiliated philosophy professor to get laid in New York City? Is that really so difficult? Really? I meet all different kinds of people. Top of the heap, bottom of the heap, everything in between, school teachers, prostitutes, real estate brokers, right? Property managers, shopkeepers, jewelers, the whole nine. I know everybody in my neighborhood. I know everybody in Williamsburg. I mean, I'm everywhere, right? No one person wants to fuck me. So, I come up with my own devices. Though all the women that I fuck are either Chinese or Latina, Dominicana, Dominican, Panama, many, South American, many Spanish-speaking women. And it's interesting, you know. I mean, it's definitely there are fascinatingly diverse kind of mores, sexual mores between cultures, because I mean, even amongst Spanish-speaking cultures. I mean, I don't know if I've ever slept with a woman from Spain. Oh yeah, I have. Yeah, I've fucked a lot of women from Spain. Yeah, but I don't know. I don't know if I have enough in Spain to really make get any kind of feel for anything cultural or customs. But even like differences between, let's say, I don't know, Dominican, Colombian, Venezuela, Puerto Rico. There are differences, you know, and I'm talking about like differences that unfold as a matter of what actual behaviors occur between men and women when they're naked. You know, different limits and stuff, and different sexual responses. The nature of the sexual response is a very, very subtle matter, because you're dealing with things that are highly singular, unique to an individual person, their sexual response. So to make cultural generalizations is very tricky, and you know, it's best avoided. It's best to be avoided, of course, unless you really. So I have some sense, you know. I don't know how I would characterize what the difference, you know. Yeah, because but all the differences, I think, are you know, rich and variegated, and of course they reflect individual stories, and they reflect the stories of peoples. And it's the same with the sexuality of let's say, you know, any woman born in the United States, let's say after World War II, right around there. I mean, by the time you get the cultural stuff in the 1960s, where like basically music gets good and people actually start thinking about drugs in a scientific way, things get, you know, really expansive. I mean, the 60s were fucking explosive, you know. And of course the right really like people like David Brooks and Bill Kristol, they really lament, you know, they're upset by things like Weather Underground, and I think probably I don't know, Malcolm X, and you know, real like militant left stuff. And yeah, I mean, I have to say that I don't really know enough about the militant side of the 1960s, and somebody like David Brooks would probably just look at me and shake his head and say, well, man, that's the whole ball of wax. What are you talking about? You don't know about the militant side of the 1960s, the militant left. And, you know, I would probably say, like, I don't know, like, what music are you into, right? I mean, do we know what music David Brooks is into? If he's into something square, like, I'm sorry, he needs to take a fucking seat. Because that guy, he talks a big game, but I don't think he's really very well educated. I'm sorry to say it. I mean, say it to you in the second person, Professor Brooks. Like, how learned are you? You're a really dogmatic thinker, right? Your ideology is really dogmatic. And then I saw photos of you at like Jeffrey Epstein parties, and you know, like, you're there. I don't give a shit if you didn't do anything. Like, You got shitty taste in friends, dude. Like, I'll just judge you just based on your taste in friends. You know, there's certain people that I avoid scrupulously, not only because they're stupid, but because they associate with the wrong people. You know, at this point, you would have to convince me, I don't think you can, that you're not one of those people with very poor taste in friends. So anyway, what's threatening now, let's say to David Brooks, why I won't hear from David Brooks, is that if anybody tells Brooks, hey, if Brooks goes to anybody and says, who's this Dimitri guy? They'll say, yeah, he talks about masturbation a lot and like his own upbringing, but he also talks in a really tedious way about the philosophy of language and like really nerdy examples from 20th century philosophy, analytic philosophy and stuff. And Brooks would probably go, wait a second, is a philosopher and he's talking about his own masturbatory practices? Okay, Brooks is just gonna say, forget it. Because what? You're going to put me in front of David Brooks, and what is the first thing? I haven't even think of the first question I'll ask David Brooks. I'll just come off the top of my head. What's your favorite way to fuck your wife? So the playing field is completely asymmetrical. If I'm willing to talk about those details in a way that's satisfactory to the people that I actually fuck, such that I keep their identities absolutely discrete and separate, right? The playing field becomes absolutely asymmetrical, because that's not the only thing that I'm willing. I mean, somebody like David Brooks is probably going to have to analyze like each proposition. Oh shit, now he wants to talk about, you know, like the taste of his own semen. Oh geez, well, I'll get back to you in a couple of weeks, Dimitri. No, you think you're going to keep my attention? No, I don't like you to begin with. So you're going to have a hard time. That's why I think you see my videos, you see like maximum, the one that I talk about paying for sex, of course, that generates interest just because people can't resist clicking on it because everybody wants to hear about that. But the rest of them, you notice there's like maybe one view. There's plenty of them that have 0 views, right? I think that there's something, you know, what I'm doing basically is I'm injecting a fuck ton of formal leeway about six. That's a slip, 6. I slipped, I meant to say sex and I said 6. About sex, right? So what ends up happening is that over some months, I guess, it's like a kind of lubricant in the system, no pun intended. I mean, hey, we're talking about sex anyway. Hey, it's like a sexual lubricant. It's like a conceptual sexual lubricant, I guess, the work that I'm doing. That's like one of the things that it does, is that, you know, the more that I demonstrate that I'm comfortable about talking about gnarly things to whoever, you know, all comers basically, no pun intended. That's the other thing that's great about talking about sex all the time, is that every other word becomes a pun. My mom has all these poems about puns that this fun is punish and this pun is funnish. Okay, so I'm 45 minutes in. This has all been my long-winded way of saying, look, if you like thinking about shit and you like reading books and you like talking in a civilized way about things, I'm on your side. If you're illiterate and you're dogmatic and you're interested in shoving your own ideas down other people's throats and not participating on a balanced playing field of discourse, then I'm just coming after you fucking hard, non-violently. You know, you don't have to worry about, I mean, I can barely swat a fly. You know, I have I have profound inner self-monitoring and surveillance. I have permanent self-reflective double consciousness, right? Nothing that I do escapes my unconsciousness. I have profound feelings of moral conscience. So if there are profound moral contradictions in, for example, in my business dealings, I own real estate, right? I'm very familiar with the properties that I'm involved with. I hope I am. I just had a fairly detailed conversation with one of my partners about one earlier today. He says, I don't mean to just unload on you. I said, hey man, I'm here. It's like we're in this. I mean, what? You unload all you want, man. If you need a break, you want me to manage the buildings for a few months, I'll do it. We're Christians. I mean, we're Orthodox Christian. We try to hold ourselves to the letter where we can. But, money is involved, and wherever there's money, there's dubious morality. And business people would rather you not know that, but wherever there's money, if you see somebody with money, it's okay to make them answer for it. How'd you get that money? Do you deserve that money? Is it like in that movie, The Triangle of Sadness, where you ask the person, so what business are you in? They say, yeah, we're in the hand grenade business. All right, well, I wonder how many hand grenade fortunes there are in the world. I'd like to know. I'd like to know, because there's at least one big hand grenade family. Who is that? I mean, can you imagine being part of the hand grenade family? I bet that must suck. So, when it comes to who's on my side and who's not, if you're intellectual, just get on my fucking side. And if you're illiterate, then you're going down. It's easy. And if I've said uncomfortable things about your sex life, like if you're a philosopher or something, I mean, please just text me. Please just text me and say, hey, look, Dimitri, let's just talk on the phone. I'll get you caught up for 10 minutes. I'll just tell you what the institutional position is vis-a-vis the US government. I'll tell you really how it is. That's all I want to know, because otherwise from the external view, it just looks like you guys are shit fucks. So if you come for philosophy, you tell me you're on my side. If you come from philosophy and you say, Dimitri, you better shut up, then yeah, I'm going down. And the next question out of my mouth is, which way do you like to fuck your wife best? And does she like the taste of your semen?